I'm black and I had this position and the 2 obviously is given. So I made my 4 point. And the 5, I played from 16 to 11. And this is not the right move. And I just would like to hear what people, obviously the next 5 is then from the 23 point. And I didn't see that. So I'm just asking whether.
Does anyone want to comment on it?
Don't we do obviously the 4 point with the 2 here?
The 2 is given. It's the 5 that I didn't see.
Yeah.
The 5 was right from the 23 point, and I understand the flexibility argument, but I thought I need builders, so I just ran home and I wanted to minimize the shot.
Yeah.
But then I didn't think about the next rule.
It's always kind of critical to give up back game anchors.
I'm just wondering whether this was an obvious move, because once I saw the move, I thought, yeah, of course. Now I understand. And also because there's 2 checkers on the bar.
Doesn't this have something to do with the pip count also?
Well, the race is even. He's on the bar, of course. But I was just thinking, I made the 4 point. I have 2 blots on the 3 and a 1.
Sorry, why you say the race is even?
Yeah, it's on 43 and 42.
But after the roll, you are leading with 8 pips,
yeah? Yeah. But with 2 blots in my board and 5 men back. I'm just wondering whether you guys see the 5 as obvious as from the 23rd.
It's not so obvious to me, but I'm wondering what the aim is then. So I think you're putting in movement maybe checkers that are not activated on the 23 points at this stage, and you would need a 5 anyway to get them out of here, which presents itself here. But this would be one argument.
I just thought that I leave double 1s and double 3.
If we believe that we are making the 4 point with the deuce, then we figure out where to go with the 5. What I think is important is that we don't get into direct distance of closing out points. So what we basically hope for is that we will roll another 2 and play 3 to 1. That would be really good for us. So I would like to put more pressure on the extra blot on the 12th point. We're leading 8-0 and we have a cube. I mean, winning 4 points would be amazing. But just winning 2 points is also very good here. So I would definitely make sure that I don't get stuck on the 23 point, which can very easily be a problem. So that's why, to me, it would be very obvious to play 23 to 18 here. A lot of pressure on white here to do something right now.
I just saw double 1s and double 3s and 4s and all these things.
Yep, they will be there anyway.
That's true.
I think there's something about making your moves as optimal as possible.
Yeah.
So when you bring down your checker from the 16 to 11, making this checker's value at its best. And so when you move, because you still would need,
I'm 8 and 10 away, yeah.
Yeah. While, those 2 checkers, even if there is more risk by bringing out a checker on the 18 point, those 2 checkers you have on the 18 and the 16 both have, some active value in position.
There is a nice phrase for such positions. I think it's called the double falcon, meaning when you do checkers in the outfield of the opponent, which are at the same time able to attack and to be attacked. Main word is also the connectivity. If you move 16-11, you are playing at the same time like a bad back game and a blitz. So this is not a good combination.
Instead of playing 6-4 with the 2 and leaving 2 homeboard blocks, why not play 3-1?
Because it's a higher value, I think, in having a higher point.
If you play 3-1, then you only have 1 homeboard block.
Oh, you duplicate the 4s, that's right.
Yeah, but the difference is, if I make the 4 point and I'm hit on the 1 point with 1 checker, it's not a tragedy. But if I'm hit on the 4 point, my home field is somehow, it's nice to have 4 points, but it's a mess then, yeah?
It's difficult to make the 4 point next time because I haven't got any builders in the zone either.
And if you hit on the 4 point, it's worse than being hit on the 1 point.
Yes, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Easier to escape as well.
I think it's Bernard says, we talked before actually about how in a blitz, sometimes the deep points can be just as good as the high ones. This is a perfect example of when they are not as good as the high ones. We have many guys back and we might get hit, and then we have to rely on hitting back at some later stage when we don't have a lot of guys in the zone, but instead we have to hit and perhaps contain a checker and things like that. And in that situation, having the deuce point and ace point made, that is just very, very bad. Our opponent will later on in the game, for example, say he builds some sort of blockade and we get a shot at one of his checkers. If he only gets 1 checker hit and we have the deuce point and ace point made, he's just completely fine. He's just, I don't care. But if we have a decent structure in our home board, he's going to be afraid that we can build a prime and contain that one checker. So I agree, it is very important to make the best points in this position. But I also agree with was pointed out that the race here, we are actually up in the race. So we have to ensure mobility. We have to ensure that we can move our back checkers so they don't get stuck there when we somehow closed our opponent out or almost did that. Then we don't want to have guys stuck on the 23 point. That is the only point that we don't want at this point. So I think perhaps it comes down to here to recognize that while it can be strong to have the 20 and 23 point together, that is when we are down maybe 40 pips, you know. Here we are actually up in the race and trying to escape our guys, and we need to move them.
I also think that I was very afraid of, you know, like leaving blocks all over the place. But in fact, even if I get hit, I have a very high anchor. And like you say, you know, it's still, you know, 2 checkers back on the 1 or 3 point if he's lucky. So
yes.
So it's not a big deal. I mean, the upside of leaving the blot and even getting hit is much, and it's how many numbers, you know? I didn't see that, but it's very often I make this mistake that I just think what's going to happen now instead of what's going to happen. So, okay, I get hit. So what next? And what next? You know, like I don't play the scenario like a chess player, but I just look at getting hit. And I think if I had the thought like just 2 steps further, then I could have seen, oh, yeah, okay.
And also, I heard before that you said that what if he rolls double aces or double threes? And that's true, then maybe hits you. But the same way you could actually argue, what if I roll double threes?
True.
I mean, if you play 16 to 11 and you roll double threes, you're actually in
big trouble.
Not so good shape. Yeah. So I think that is a lot what this move is about, that you want to give yourself good flexibility and many nice numbers. Yeah. So you don't get stuck there. And I also wanted to say, I very much agree with Bernhard's comment about connectivity. That is how you can recognize this without knowing the pip count. You can see that you have all of you guys in one corner of the board and remainder in another corner of the board that are the furthest away from each other. That doesn't look good visually, or it shouldn't do, at least.
Thank you.